Welcome to Roxtalks, the podcast that helps network marketers grow their business on social media. And wow, it's February as we're recording this. And that means that an entire month has gone by in the new year and I haven't had my business bestie on. That's like ridiculous. That can't happen. And so we are rectifying that immediately. If you know who I'm talking about, I know you do. It's Megan Sumrell. She's here on the podcast today to talk to us about, let me tell you who Megan is first. Megan is a time and productivity coach. That is what she teaches and she trains and she rocks at it. Helps so many busy moms who, and we don't like the word busy, so let me just say that differently. Helps so many moms who are doing all the things in business and in life really manage that and tackle that and feel successful with that. I'm so excited to have her on. That's what she does officially. But what she does for me personally is she gives me sanity on a regular basis, gives me vision at times, also is inspiration and my cheerleader, and sometimes my coach as well too. So I can't imagine going through being an entrepreneur without her.
And we save a lot of money on therapy just by talking on the regular.
Oh, I think so. And I think Scott gets saved a lot of me talking about fantastic things, mind you, because of Megan. So she is here. We're going to be right back with all the things with her. And we're going to be talking about what happens when you're trying to build a business and you have no support. I mean, in the home. You get me.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be right back. Do you know what's coming in less than a week? Oh my goodness. It is the What is it, Megan?
It's the summit.
It is. It's the Social Media for Network Marketers Summit, and it is coming. And if you're not registered, I say foul. So here's what it is. And I should say it's 2.0 because someone asked the other day, is it the same thing she did last year? Well, in name only. But other than that, it's a new year and we have new and wonderful things for you. If you are a network marketer, which you probably are if you're listening to this podcast, and you build your business in any way, shape, or form on social media, then you must be there. You need to be there. It is your place to be. Megan Sumrell, actually, you're one of our guests at the summit. You're one of our speakers, I should say, at the summit.
I am. Well, I am both a consumer and a speaker because I've gotten a sneak peek from some of it, and it's amazing. I'm already learning, and it hasn't even started yet.
I love that. That's so great. And what will you be talking about at the summit, my dear?
I am going to be talking about how to not let yourself get sucked down the rabbit hole of shiny object syndrome, aka something like Clubhouse, that totally derails all of your vision. And so how to strategically put a plan in place to bring new platforms, maybe, or decide not to bring new platforms into your business.
Obviously a must-watch session of the summit for anyone who is trying to navigate through all of the things social media. So, and it's you'll love it. It's free. It's 3 days of your life that will transform your life. 3 days of your life is going to transform your entire year. And that's fact. So I'd love to see you there. Go ahead and get registered at Social Network Marketers Summit. Do not miss it. And guess what? Friends don't let friends miss out on the summit. So go ahead and invite upline, downline, sideline, frenemies, people that you like that are in other network marketing companies. Invite all of them. Social Network Marketers Summit. We'll see you there. We are here with Megan Sumrell. Megan, it's so good to see you.
It's good to see you. It's highlight of my week.
You know, it's my highlight too. Talking to you on the we have a morning check-in, and then you can listen to the episode about all that. I guess all those things. But I do want to tell everyone listening and watching about a time on Voxer where I reached out to Megan because I was just hella sad. Hella sad because a client of mine who I adore and has really been battling with the lack of support for her network marketing business inside of her home and made some strides and was growing her business and feeling the confidence, loving it, and was such an important part of my social stories community, reached out to me at the beginning of the year and said, I have to pull back on all things. I will service my customers, but right now and if I look back on our conversations and our coaching sessions, I knew that was coming, right? There was more that drip of he doesn't support me. He thinks this is ridiculous. He's not a fan. My kids kind of laugh when they see me doing things on social media, all of the things. But I didn't think that the gremlins would get her. And the gremlins got her, and it broke my heart. And so I reached out to Megan and I was like, and we had a great conversation that spurred into let's have this conversation openly, because my client is not the only one going through this.
No.
Many network marketers. So Megan, I guess let's just start with what do you do when that happens? I mean, kudos to you for like deciding to do the business anyway. But when you make that decision, you know you're going it alone. How do you handle that? Well,
and I don't think it's this, for me personally, it wasn't this moment where it's like, screw it, I'm going to go it alone. And, this is a part of my growing my network marketing business. I don't talk about. And now looking back, I probably should have talked more about it, because in the moment, for lack of a better word, I was ashamed, because all you see out there are the stories of these supportive, families. And, even if it's not a spouse, it's maybe a boyfriend or a girlfriend, a significant other or something. And it's the power duo. And you would go to your local events, and there on the stage would be the head person whose significant other is right there cheering them on. And I'm sitting there going, I lied about what I was doing tonight to come here, because I knew I'd get a lot of grief from home. And so I think, internally for so long, I felt ashamed, and then I felt resentful, and I was embarrassed, and all those things at once. And so you kind of hunker down into your bubble and you don't talk about it. And I wished I'd had, because I think I would have found community and support a lot sooner than I did on how to navigate. I have this thing I'm really excited about, yet every single time I try and bring it up, it's like the bubble gets, the balloon gets burst. And so then you just kind of hunker down even further. It's hard.
That's a really good point, because, much like people say, oh, you just show your highlight reel on social media. That's what we do as network marketers. We don't say my husband doesn't enjoy this, or my significant other is always asking me, how much money did you make today? Or, well, what's the bottom line? And even those little comments, I think, chip away at, especially because network marketing is such a mental game. But you don't hear many people talk about the lack of support. In fact, they don't. And so I love that you call that out. And I would say to anyone who has a team, or consider themselves a team leader, it's good to have those conversations. It's good because we only see the hubbies that are like, oh, I'm rah-rah. And you're thinking, why can't my hubby be like that? Which is not a thought you ever want to have, but it's nice to know it is normal. It's nice to normalize hey, you can do this even if the people in your household don't get it the way you do, and you can still be successful.
Yeah. And then, most importantly, what I want to talk about today is things I wished I'd learned sooner, that if I'd put in place in my household, maybe I wouldn't have gotten to the point where I've shared with you the night I was sobbing hysterically, thinking I finally got to this successful point and he still doesn't get it. And so my hope for today is to maybe, first, for anybody listening that feels this way, you're not alone. Like you're the power duos, the spouse that's cheering them on and supporting every step of the way and knows your entire product line, they're the one in a million, but that's all that we see. So recognize you're among friends here, but maybe you can learn from some of my mistakes that I made that thankfully, I'm still a work in progress on those. And just think about some different things you might put in place to get what you need from a support perspective from home that will look different for everybody, so that you're not basically trying to hide working, right?
Absolutely. I was like, yeah, I mean, when you said you're not alone, that just like struck me, because I know that people listening needed to hear that right now. Yeah. So lessons learned from, and let me just like disclaim, Megan's husband is wonderful. And Scott is wonderful. They just don't think like we do. They don't think like we do.
And I think for me, that's the perfect segue into the first thing I had to learn. And it extends beyond, even just having a network marketing business, but just about relationships in general, particularly with people of the opposite sex or same sex, if they have different personalities than you, is understanding there's a difference between supporting someone and then like partnering with them and getting excited and all of that. And so for me and what I see happening to a lot of other women in network marketing, our definition in our mind of our spouse supporting us is, I'm going to, not only are they going to pick up slack around the house and we're going to change up some chores and they're going to start vacuuming and, being Mary Poppins and loving every minute of it. But then I'm also going to sit down and tell them all about the new product line that came out, and they're going to get so excited and they're going to want to jump in and use it. And then they're going to let me take before and after pictures of them. And we start painting this picture in our head of, this is what it means for you to support me in business, meaning they're going to be as passionate about it as you are. And that was the first mistake I made, was thinking that my husband was going to be as passionate about this beauty business that I was. Guys, he's in construction and he mountain bikes and he likes to be out in the woods. Do you see the disconnect, like right off the bat? But in my head, that was my definition of him supporting me. And I had a big wake-up call one day when he loves to mountain bike. And there was some new, he watches YouTube videos of guys doing extreme mountain biking. That's his downtime. And there was this YouTube thing because it was a guy riding the new mountain bike he had just gotten, which apparently is a big deal. And could I have cared any less than I did in that moment? No, I could not have. And he's showing me this thing, and I'm kind of half listening, and I'm trying to act whatever. And finally, he's kind of like, "You just don't care, do you?" And in that moment, it hit me. I was like, I am doing exactly to him what I don't like when I'm talking about, some new beauty product. And it was such an aha moment of, if somebody were to ask me, do you support your husband mountain biking? I'd say absolutely, because we work out a system on the weekends where he can have his time, because it's several hours that he's gone. He can have his time for that. And I can have, so in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'm totally supportive. I encourage him to go out and ride. I do all that. But do I care about the latest and greatest mountain biking gear? And do I want to rehash every second of every ride and watch the GoPro footage? No, I do not. And so that was kind of the first part for me of recognizing I need to recognize I can't dictate what supporting my business looks like. I can't expect him to love every bit of in and out, just like I do. That's why you have business partners. You get on the phone with them to get excited about the latest promotion and the this and the that. So that's kind of where I want to start the conversation, is to challenge you all to think, okay, are you putting unrealistic expectations on your loved ones of how involved they should be with your business?
Yeah. It's funny when you say that. I had these flashbacks to the reward trips. And first of all, the excitement of like getting it. I thought, oh my gosh, Scott will come and he's going to get it all. It's like going to click. It's going to be amazing. Yeah. And they always
start using the products and telling all his buddies about it.
Exactly. Or something, but they'd always have those sessions for significant others and spouses, right? Mm-hmm. I would go, like, first year, he was like, but he went, and it actually, like, he met people that are our lifetime friends now, lifelong friends. But what's interesting is sitting there, they tried to tell them and convince them, like, hey, check out the back office. Like, you can help her by like doing the finances of the business. Do you think that Scott was like, hey, how come you never told me about this name, that name? But once we got home and he's in financial services, he had no interest in like keeping my books every month. And that just, which is a reminder of like, while he saw, okay, there's a financial part to it, that was not his thing. And then by the, I don't know, fourth trip or whatever, he and all his buddies were like, we're going to skip this. We're not even they didn't even go to the spouse. And I was like, you know what? And by then I'm like, it's totally fine. I don't care. Whereas before I was very much like, you've got to go and you've got to go to all the sessions. I'm like, you know what? You do you, have a great time. Because you're here and that's supporting me, you showing up and being here does not mean you have to like hook, line, and sinker be all into this company's sessions and all things.
Yeah. And it's funny when you talk about that session, because I didn't have overnight success until I decided to take it seriously. So when I first joined, I was, I did okay. And then all of a sudden I started seeing like, okay, I see what this could be if I actually took this seriously. So I decided I was going to earn a trip. Like, I'm going to earn a trip, and that's going to be the aha moment. Because up till that point, I was still working full time. I had a daughter who wasn't even school age yet. And so what I did, and I don't recommend this. I joined, and I didn't even tell my husband I joined for like a month because I just didn't. So I was hiding it. Like I'd be on my phone in the evening, quote, working my business. That's a whole nother story. And I'd be hiding the fact that I was trying to do this because I didn't know where it was going. Mm-hmm. So then one day I told him, I'd done this, and the instant thing was, how much is this going to cost and how much time is this going to take? Yeah. I was like, it doesn't cost anything. It literally, which, I mean, I think I told him, I was like, $25 a month or, whatever. I was like, it's not a cost, because he thought we'd have a garage full of supplies. I was like, no, I don't have to buy inventory. We're good. And just 10 minutes a day, like it'll be fine. You won't even notice, which was a lie. So right off the bat, I didn't start off very well, because what I never did. And when I decided like, I'm going to get serious about this, at that moment, what should I have done? I probably should have sat down and had a conversation with him and explained why I wanted to prioritize time for this, what vision I saw, and why it was important to me. Instead, I chose to be the martyr. I am going to do this on top of everything else. I'm going to prove that I can be Superwoman. Everyone says you can fit it in around everything. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do it at the expense of sacrificing myself. Instead of having a conversation, hey, I'm going to need about 45 minutes a day. Let's talk about this. And here's why. I didn't take that opportunity at all. I sat quietly and suffered and sacrificed. And so all my spouse is seeing is me pulling my iPad up at night with him saying, and I quote, "What are you tippity tapping on over there?" You can hear it still like makes my teeth clench. And me going, I'm working, but never explaining what the heck working meant, why I cared about it, what I was working for. So I decided, that's it. I'm going to earn a trip, and then he'll understand. Then he'll get it. Again, still never had a conversation. Mm-hmm. So I go all in and I earn this trip. And we're on the plane to the 5-star trip. And they always name them, your, I don't know, highway to Havana or pathway to Punta Cana, or, whatever your company names their trip. So we'd won our highway to Havana or whatever. That's not what it was called. And
I know you didn't go to Cuba. I'm going to say, I know you didn't go to Cuba.
That just came out. And I had a poster on the fridge. My daughter was tracking my results on this. I mean, like, I'm thinking, I'm going to involve the family and this will make it fun. We get on the plane. We are getting ready to land. Of course, I've printed out all the itinerary and, organized. And I open up, I'm like, okay, so when we land, we got to look for someone holding the sign that has the, highway to Havana on it. And he looks at me, he goes, "What the hell's highway to Havana?" It's like, what I've just spent the last 6 months of my life.
Hello, welcome. My name is Megan.
This isn't good. It was like, I'm not going to a spouse session. The whole thing just wah, wah, wah. Because again, I had decided if I do this, then did I ever have the conversation at this point?
The important conversation, that important piece of it. Yeah, it was a great plan. Yes. I think it reminds me that it's like love languages, right? When you learn about love languages and how people, you may have a different love language than your spouse. And that in business, it's the same way as well too.
100%. So at that point, now that trip was a good pivotal trip for us because there wasn't like the opening night, there was the big event, all of that. And all of a sudden, I think he started seeing, there's some incredible opportunity here. So that night kind of had a meltdown, but it was exactly what we needed to clear the air. And, through heaving sobs in this gorgeous hotel room, I finally kind of vomit out, here's why I'm doing this. Like, I am really struggling to juggle a career and motherhood because of the time freedom. Like the fact I have no control over my schedule. When our daughter gets sick, I'm in a panic. Like, just all these things that were hard for me. I'd lost myself. I had no community left anymore. All these reasons why this business was so important to me just came flooding out in a very emotional state. And at the end of it, there's this long pause and he's kind of like, well, why didn't you ever tell me that? It's like, and now, I mean, it's been like 18 months. I have put myself through the ringer for a year and a half, 2 years before this conversation finally came out. And so that laid the foundation now for us to have a very different conversation. Because again, it was, all I saw was in his mind, I know what your hourly rate is in your corporate life. You ain't anywhere near that over here, which of course you're not when you're first starting a business, right? I had over 20 years of experience behind that hourly rate. And so all they're seeing is a disconnect of time, either time that they're not getting or time and money.
Right.
And particularly if we're talking about men here, that's how most of them are wired to think. And so bringing in the understanding of when I started painting the picture of like, yeah, but my hope is in 4 years, here's what this looks like financially. Here's the pathway to get there. And now I sat down and had a business, non-emotional conversation that laid the foundation for things to start looking different.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's very powerful.
Now, does that mean that we got home and suddenly he's like, hey, I'll do the vacuuming. Hey, oh my God, dear, no. No. So it is a slow start. And it's funny, when I was prepping for this, I remember being at some kind of an opportunity event for business. And I remember one of the spouses talking and him saying, ladies, could you just have a night a week where you're not on your phone when you're hanging out with your man? And I was like, ooh, that is a fair request, one night a week, And so for us, it's been a journey of sitting down and saying, okay, I need this much time to work and grow this business. I don't need to tell you all the ins and outs of what the tasks are because that's not in his world, but this is how much time I need. Let's together talk about when and where we prioritize that so that we still have family time. We still have time for you and I still have time for me. You still have time for your mountain biking or whatever it is. And I still have time for the business, and have that conversation together. For me, it started with, I am not going to work 2 nights a week. Like 2 nights a week. Now I don't work at all at night, but it didn't start that way. But I think when you can have, and don't do it don't do it like I always do when I'm in, I'm at a max 10, wait until it's a calm, quiet, normal day. And almost, as you would any job, if I were to go pick up a job at a store, I would have to sit down and say, how are we going to make this work? You need to have that same conversation and it has surprised me, tasks that I thought he wouldn't want to pick up. He does very willingly tasks. I thought he would be like, yeah, I got this. He's like, no, I don't want to do that. But it's opened the door for some really creative conversations, but it's got to be a conversation, not us, not them, not communicating with us, and not us having expectations of what that support's going to look like either.
Communication is key, but I do want to disclaim, we're not saying this works for everyone.
Oh, my word. No. And, I'm sitting here 6.5 years later telling you guys about this. Is it always still great here? Good Lord, no. We're human, right? And change is hard. And particularly when you rock the boat on what maybe your traditional roles and responsibilities are in your house, it is challenging, for sure. But I want to encourage people who are in this right now, give it time and don't give up. If this is something you are passionate about, do the work, have the conversations, get creative. And it might be uncomfortable for a little bit until it's not, because everybody deserves to have something, whatever it is, that's important to them. And that gives them a sense of purpose and value.
Absolutely. Before COVID, Scott would always say, like, what do you say you're working? Because you'd be working, he'd be going to the office. Like, you say you're working, but what are you really doing? You go to the gym for a few hours. Are you really working? I'm like, are you crazy? I'm totally working. And it's been interesting because now that he's been home for almost a year, he sees that I am working, so he sees, oh, she's working. Like he's seeing that more and he gets more of what I do. And he likes to eavesdrop in on like my interviews, my calls, my all those things. And he's like, oh, such and this and that, but he still doesn't understand what I do. And that's okay still too. So so I made a conscious decision to keep my Christmas tree up for as long as I want to, right? And it's still up. This one is always up, but the big one, it's still up. And I have been kind of thinking, I'm like, I think I'm ready to take you down. I think it's going to be okay. But this morning, he said, I think it might be time to take down the Christmas tree. Although he already accepted it was going to be at least till March. And I go, yeah, I feel that way too, but it's not happening in the next couple of weeks. The next couple of weeks are all summit. And he's like, do you need me to help you take it down? I'm like, you better not touch my tree. That is not, I'm like, no. He's like, well, you're not multitasking. You've got summit and that's going to take 2 weeks. And I go, do you know what the summit is? He's like, yeah, you told me it's something that's going to take 2 weeks. I said, so how many days actually is the summit? And he was like, I don't know. What is the summit? I don't know. Like all I've been talking about is the summit lately. So, but I just kind of chuckled at him because I know he cares. But it's just like when he talks about financial services, I don't really think I try to. I'm like, I try, but my brain is like, Roxanne, stay in your lane. I'm like, I'm going to that lane. And I go to my happy place. But I do think what you said is so important. It's the communication. And I know now not to get frustrated with him if he's like, I don't know how long it is. What I do know as well, too, is when we do talk about things, they value it more. If I just keep all the things I have to do a secret, I should say, not intentionally, but maybe I'm like, oh, he would never understand it. Then he doesn't know that it's something that I value because I haven't taken the time to share that with him. Something we do is we have a calendar because he's very anal, and I put together a Google calendar, right? And I thought,
this makes my heart happy. I'm going to fit in a calendar. I'm going to be super excited.
Just a calendar. So we have an electronic calendar, a Google calendar that we share. And I didn't realize he was going to enjoy this so much. We've had it now for a couple of years and he loves it. But what I'll find is we'll be sitting in bed one day and he'll say like, are you still working out at 10:30 tomorrow? And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, because if you're not, I'm going to delete it. And he likes to go and delete things off my calendar. Or he'll come and go, you have a pretty light day tomorrow. I'm like, what do you mean? I have lots of things to do. I don't see it on the calendar. Or he'll go, gosh, you have a busy, busy day. But what's interesting is when I put things on the calendar, it means it's important to because that is a little bit of communication where he's like, oh, that's important. It's on the calendar.
Yeah. But finding that vehicle, another big change that I've encouraged a lot of people to do is don't use the phrase just I'm working. Because particularly like my husband doesn't do social media at all. He doesn't exist out there. He is like off the grid very happily. So if he sees social media up, that is not work, right? So, but we know we have to be on there strategically, friends, strategically. So instead of just I'm working, I learned to start saying, well, right now I gotta get my newsletter out. I'm pulling up my CRM system because I've got 16 people I need to do follow-ups with, and I'm doing my content planning for next week. Now, which sounds more like, oh crap, this woman's got a plan and is on a mission. I'm working as you've got Facebook open, or I'm building my newsletter, I'm getting this out and I'm doing that. And so I have learned to tweak I'm working to, all right, well, this weekend, here are the 4 tasks I've got to get done to grow the business. Suddenly, it keeps me accountable to being smart with my time.
Absolutely. Even if those tasks make him gloss over, he's like, oh, she's working.
It sounds like, I don't know what any of that is, but I got to go into Canva and I've got to create my reel, which we laugh because we know I'm not. But I've got to go in and schedule my stories and my this and my that. All of a sudden, it's like kind of like when he talks, the latest mountain biking. I don't know what any, but it sounds really fancy. So yes, you need to go do that. So, and be more aware of, and if you're treating your business like a business, which if you're working with Roxanne, we all know you are, then you should know exactly what those tasks are that you're doing. So have that conversation. I need the time to do these things because this is how I'm growing my business. And then when you grow, when you've had a great month, when you've hit that thing, when you've tried the new thing that works, communicate that as well, because then you're carrying them along on see, this is working. This is growing. I had a big win today. And now it becomes something we can all celebrate.
That's so important. That's so valuable. What's another thing you've learned along the way?
How much time we got?
You tell us, give it to us.
It's funny when we go back to the support again, and you and I have had many conversations around the concepts of partners, accountability partners, all, biz besties, whatever. Be careful and be intentional about who you choose to talk to about what parts of your business. Like I'm not going to bore my husband with content planning. I got to get content planning. Oh, okay. Now I'm not going to get on the phone or partner up with somebody who all they do is complain about content planning. They're going to talk me out of doing it. They're going to tell me how they haven't done it. And then they're going to tell me that it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Instead, connect with people here's what I'm trying. What are you trying? That you are encouraging each other and you're finding the right people. And it might be 4 different people for 4 different things. I mean, think about your personal life outside of work. Do you call the same person for every conversation you need to have? Like, I know I'll talk to one of my sisters about one thing. I'll call my other sister I'll call my mom right? Mm-hmm. The same applies with business. You want to get to where you've got a team of people, of a community that you are leveraging for various parts of the support that you need. And so understand back to your love languages. I know I am a acts of service and words of affirmation person. My husband is the polar opposite, of course, right? So you better believe I'm going to find people in my life that naturally have acts of service and words of affirmation so I can get
that mine too,
which are yours, which is why we get along so well, right? And know that that's okay. We cannot expect one person to be our everything for everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
let the ones go that aren't.
Yeah. I mean, no one is a magical unicorn. They can't do all things.
No.
And so,
except for maybe chocolate.
Except for maybe chocolate. Oh, and apparently, sidebar, I was doing a training for a group of network marketers yesterday, and there was a Color Street person on there. And I said, how would you describe Color Street? And she said, what did she say? It was like, something made from unicorn tears. I'm like, well, definitely don't put that on your bio. And I'm like, is the unicorn sad or are these happy tears? And she's like, happy tears. I'm like, okay.
Because wasn't there something in Harry Potter where the unicorn tears were like a bad thing?
I'm not a Harry Potter.
No, that was something. Oh, that's right. You don't do Harry Potter. Okay.
But you'll have to ask Grace. She'll let you know.
Yeah, she will.
Which actually is a nice segue because there's another element of this. It's not others, but your children who are watching my favorite musical of all time is Once Upon a Time. Love it, love it, love it. And there's a song in it that says, careful the things you say, children will listen. The whole thing, it's called Children Will Listen. It's a great song. You should all listen to it. It's fantastic. Maybe I'll put it at the bottom of this podcast. But I think it reminds us that what you're doing and what you are expressing and acting out, you've got eyes watching. So you're the mom on the podcast. What are your thoughts?
So I'll just share one story, which I think I've shared with you before, but I think it illustrates the good, the bad, and the ugly with all of it. And, I'm a mom of just one, which, has its, however many you have, it's a unique set of challenges, right? Yeah. And there was a time, it was a year ago, actually, where I was tucking my daughter in, and it was an evening I was working. It was still when I was working 2 nights. Had shifted into I only worked 2 nights a week. And I needed to be on a phone call for work that had been scheduled. And I'd spent plenty of time in a room. I'd read the extra chapter. I'd done the 10th extra, one more hug, all this stuff. And as I finally was like, I have got to go. I've got to work. And there's a pause. And then the little 9-year-old, she 9 at that time, says, Mom, sometimes I feel like you love your work more than me. Which is like every mom's nightmare, right? Dagger to the heart. So I'm like, see, I'm the worst mom ever. Yep, I got to quit work. You go there in your head. But thankfully in the moment, I just paused because I've learned don't speak instantly, Megan. I usually regret the words that come out of my mouth when I do. And so I just said, why do you feel that way? And she said, well, I just feel like sometimes you would rather be doing something for your work than playing with me. So I paused and I said, sometimes or all the time? And she said, sometimes. So I said, well, sometimes I would, which was not the answer she was wanting to hear. And I know it rocked her to her core, but it then allowed us to have actually a conversation as a family, which has changed the way we communicate. And so I sat down with her and I said, here's what you need to understand. I was Megan for a very, very long time before I even met your dad. Like, it was just me. It was just Megan. And then I met your dad, and he calls me Megs. And I said, and so now I had some new responsibilities because now I'm a wife and I've got this. And so there's things now added to my life, and I've got kind of this new person that I am. And then you came along, and now I get to be a mom. But just because I have mom doesn't mean Megs doesn't exist, and it doesn't mean Megan doesn't exist. And it doesn't mean that mom always has to be the top of the list of who I am. And I said, and I'm much better if I can just kind of be one of those things at a time. Sometimes you got to meld a little bit. And it, again, was not what she wanted to hear instantly. But I got to tell her, there are times where I'm working on a project I've been working on for weeks, and I'm literally 10 minutes away from finishing it. And you bust in the room with, let's go play a game of Crazy Eights or whatever, and I just need 10 more minutes. Yes, in that moment, I would like to have the 10 minutes to finish this huge project that I'm this close to. And in 10 minutes, then I would love to do nothing more than go play a round of Crazy Eights. Mm-hmm. But me saying no in the moment doesn't mean I love my work more. It just means that in that moment of time, this actually is something I'm really proud of and I've worked really hard for. And I said, and I want for you one day when you're older, and if you choose to have a family, that you have things that fill you up 100%, just you, just Grace, without anything else. And so now, we use that around our house all the time. If I'm doing something, I'd be like, hey, you want to go play a game? I'm like, hang on, Megan just needs like 5 more minutes. And then you got mom 100%. Or I'll be like, hey, I got 15 minutes, and then Megs and mom's is going to be here. Or some nights it's, you know what? You got to go to bed because it's Meg's time. This is time for me and your dad. Like, I am not doing this anymore. But we can laugh about it. And it's a good way to have, I just feel like it's been a good way for us to talk about it as a family and to show her, yeah, everyone should have things that are important to them, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I think what you're teaching her is that it's okay, that self-care is okay.
Both self-care is good, or, being really proud about something you've worked really hard to do is okay. And putting yourself above others sometimes is okay.
Yeah.
That led into the whole, well, what if I break my arm? Well, we have to go down that rabbit hole. I'm like, well, of course, in an emergency, but what is an emergency? You all know how that goes. But it's an important message for her, but it's also, most importantly, it's an important message for me to remind myself. And it's important for my spouse and for me to remind him, you need you time just as much as I need me time.
Absolutely. We had a Clubhouse room about this about a week and a half ago. Mm-hmm. And some of the attendees who raised their hand, I'm using the Clubhouse lingo, to come on, it turned out a lot of them were boy moms. And one of the things that Dr. Lisa specifically said was that her son had said to her, Mom, watching you be a professional and watching you grow your business, not just her being the doctor, but also her network marketing business, it has taught me that I want to find a woman who's strong like that as well too. And so I think it's such an important reminder, whether you have boys or girls, you are teaching them the things that are really going to help them and choose and make decisions as they grow up. So even if your kids are like laughing at you because they see you doing a selfie or doing a live video. Yeah, they're laughing, but they're also watching too. And they're seeing you take that seriously, and they see that going towards your business. And that does make a difference in a huge way.
It does. And involve them if you can. I just recently hired her. She is my daughter, who's 10, is now building my graphics for my VIP group every week. So I am paying her weekly to produce 6 graphics that get posted every single day. She is loving it, and that may not be a solution for everybody, but now it's, well, could I do this? She's like, you mean people get paid to do these things? You mean I could design stuff that could be a career for me? Yes, it could, So I always try and get creative. When she was younger, I would have her, create sample packs for me. I've always tried to find ways to try and get her involved in it. And I am talking very openly with her now about the money behind it. Like, learn about business. It opens the door for so many cool conversations that you can have as well.
So good. So good. So very good. Okay. I want to make sure we've covered all things. I mean, can we ever cover all things?
Of course not. But I would say, the biggest takeaways would be, take the time for yourself and think, what is it that you love about your business? What are you proud of? Why do you love this? What are your dreams, hopes, goals, passions for this? Because we all have them. And get really clear in your head around that so that you can start the conversation with your loved ones based on that. Like, hey, I know it looks this way, but I don't think I've ever told you why I love, why I'm doing this. What is my purpose? What is my passion? Start from there. And that is a beautiful place to start then having those future conversations around, here's the time I need to get these tasks done for my business. Let's talk collectively about how we support each other. Maybe it's you cook dinner Monday and Wednesday nights and I do Tuesday and Thursday. Maybe it's like right now I have a very important thing on Wednesdays. That is the one day my husband picks up our daughter from school. I do all of the rest. But it wasn't, if I would have killed myself making it happen instead of just saying, this is really important to me.
Megan, that got me thinking, when sometimes we think our whys have to be these big whys, like I want to retire my husband or I want to buy us a house.
No.
And what's interesting is I always think it's funny when people have those whys, the good leaders will push back and go, what is your why though? What is the thing you specifically want? And it got me thinking as you were saying that, if you go to your significant other and you're like, I want to retire you, and that's why I'm doing this, you may not get okay, awesome, do it. They might say like, I actually enjoy my job, so we can just scrap this thing that you're doing if that's the reason you're doing it. If you're going to them and you're really deep into, this is why I'm doing it for me, it's a lot harder for them to just sweep that under the rug.
And I pray that you have a reason that's yours.
Exactly. And if you don't, then that's something you may want to work on.
Yeah. And if it's I want to retire my husband, is it really, or is it I want to know that if something were to happen to him, I would be fine and be able to support myself and my family, or, I would question anybody that was really, well, why would you want to retire him? What is it you're really after there? And I know for me, a big driver is I want to know in any emergency situation that we are fine financially.
Yeah. And
that's really important to me, to have that. I want to know that I'm not, and I'm a therapist would have a field day with me on that one. There's all sorts of reasons why it's wrapped up in my head, but that is important to me, along with, a ton of other things around community and growth. I've learned more than I can, and that's another big one I talk about a lot, is I love saying, oh my God, look at all these skills I've learned I never even knew existed. So there's so much to it. And we all know that. That's why we love this industry, right?
Absolutely. That lifetime learner gets you going for sure in that. Megan, this has been fantastic. I have a parting word, but I want to make sure you say anything else you would want to say on this subject.
No, just if you love it, which I hope you do, then be willing to have the hard conversations, because you might be pleasantly surprised on where you find yourself on the other side. Not overnight, but amazing changes.
I love that. Fantastic. And that's actually a really good segue to what I want to say, which is, if you love it, then don't list it. Or go see Megan's episode of Love It or List It. She's on the current season of Love It or List It. You can meet her, her husband, and you also get to see her adorable daughter. Now streaming on HGTV, and the reruns show up often as well too. So it's worth this. You can see the entire. I won't tell you what happens, but you can see all the things. So I couldn't help myself.
It's too funny. I know. It still makes me chuckle.
Absolutely. Megan, where do we find you when we need more of you? And do you have anything you want to promote?
So I've always got, I think a great place that people find, well, it's not a great place to be in, but we get in overwhelm a lot, particularly us ladies, right? So I have got a proven process that I go through anytime I'm feeling overwhelmed. So if you find yourself in a place of overwhelm, which I'm sure that never happens, right? There is a extremely simple yet incredibly powerful 3-step system that I go through whenever I find myself there. So I've got it created for you guys in a really fun PDF. You can go grab it at theworklifeharmony.com, and then you've got a tool in your tool belt that you can use at any time. Otherwise, you can come connect with me on any of the platforms just at Megan Sumrell. I'm very easy to find. And if you want a behind the scenes funny story of everything on Love It or List It, actually, you can go check out the Work Life Harmony podcast. One of my recent episodes was all the Your Questions Asked from having been on the show. It was crazy.
Love it. Now I think of List It every time I say love it. Fantastic. I think you should check Megan out personally. It's so good to have you on the podcast and to have a real conversation that I know that so many network marketers are going through right now. So thank you so much. And if you guys, maybe you aren't, maybe you're the unicorn couple that is not going through this. Kudos to you. Send this to someone who might have been vulnerable enough to let you know that they are going through this, and use this as a resource so that those who come onto your team who may have some hesitation because of this situation, it may be easier for you to just send them here than to have that conversation with them initially. And that's fine. Use this, abuse this. Most definitely. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
All right. So it's time for behind the scenes / mindset moment. I think they're together. So first and foremost, as you know, the summit is knocking on the door. So excited about it. It's literally, if I do my math correctly, 11 days away. Is that right? Yeah, 11 days away. And things are rolling and going in a fantastic way. All the interviews are ready to go and fantastic. And right now we're just working on promoting it, getting the word out. If you're not coming to the summit, you need to sign up for it, and making sure people know and understand what it is, and getting some of the little surprises or the many surprises in place for the actual summit itself. So I'm all summit all the time, and I'm loving it. Although I have been doing other things besides the summit, of course. In the membership with the new month starting, I had my meeting with my elite members, and we just had a great coaching call this week, as well as the training for all the Social Stories members. So with elite, with that group, what I did is I went through and gave them like the highlights of what are the big changes on Facebook and Instagram right now, and talked through how to put those into and integrate those into the funnels that they're creating. So we had a really nice deep dive in that. And then of course I had hot seats doing any group coaching and helping them work through any issues, piccadillys they had with what they were doing. So that was how I kicked off my month. That's a great way. Like the first Monday of the month to be doing that with them was fantastic. In fact, I am tomorrow doing a special session for my elite members where we're going to do a dive into Reels. But I have a Reels challenge, and everyone can do the Reels challenge, but they're elite, so they get a little more extra attention. And so what we're doing is like, I'm going to work through working through getting their Reels and getting a nice rhythm for their creating Reels. So that's happening tomorrow. I'm excited about that. And then on Wednesday, I had my training for members. And what we did, y'all, was so good for all members, so elite members and all Social Stories members, content creation workshop. We haven't done one of those in a little over a year, actually. Yeah, it was a year. What I loved about this is there were so many aha moments. where they have their plan, no joke, and I give them 2 hours. In 90 minutes, they had their content created for the next 30 days. And they had so many aha moments where I was able to show them how to use some tricks on Facebook and Instagram to get clear on what they're going to post. They know how many times they're going to post, what type of posts, all those things. It was fantastic, like lightning in a bottle. In fact, I've got to make sure that recording is there for the replays there for those who couldn't make it. But seeing how excited they were, and just that, if you could get your content done in 90 minutes for the month, to have that plan done, how good would that feel for you? I could just see the weight lifting off their shoulders. So we'll probably do those. Probably I'm thinking quarterly, make those happen for them. And then, I also this week, I always believe in being a lifetime learner. I don't think or ever say that I know everything, because I don't. And if on the scale of knowing everything and knowing nothing, I'm closer to nothing than everything. But I am part of a mastermind. It's Tribe Mastermind for memberships. And we had our second session, our big 3-day event, which in theory would be in Toronto, actually Vancouver, so in Canada, this time in Vancouver. However, we can't travel because of COVID. So it was one of those like shutting the doors, making sure food is figured out for my house, and just like, do not disturb. I'm in this summit, and in this mastermind. I have to tell you, when I'm in this mastermind with other amazing membership owners, I'm like, I am not worthy. I'm not worthy. I just feel I'm quiet because I think to myself, what am I doing here? And this is the second time. And I'm like, how did you get in this? I know you applied, but they let you in. And I have to get rid of that, because the truth of the matter is that just like they bring so much value to me, I bring value to them too. I'm going to be bold and say that. We all have a contribution, but I learned so many things. I took 3 things to do and implement immediately, and I've already implemented 2 of those. One is I have on pause till March. Plus, there's all these other things I want to do that are just going to really help my members and social stories grow even more, help my elite members, and help all of you. So I'm really excited about that. And my head is just full, and my heart is full. And I just having that bonding time with them, because it's virtual, we don't get to bond as much as we typically bond, right? Because we'd be in a hotel and all the things. But I really felt more like, Roxanne, you're exactly where you're supposed to be this time than last. So I'm very excited about that. And I can't wait to see the progress and the growth strategy that's being put in place. So that was awesome. And then, of course, it's all roads lead to Summit, baby. So if you're not registered, go and get registered at socialnetworkmarketersummit.com. I tapped onto this a little bit, but you heard what I said about how I didn't feel like I belonged. Y'all, we sell ourselves short. And I was reminded of that. Like, we all need to realize that there's going to be moments where we feel like we're able to impart wisdom and knowledge on people, and other times where we feel like, what are you doing here? You're an imposter. And I felt that. I literally felt that this week. And I'm glad I did. I think it's good that I felt that going into the summit, because it was a reminder that, well, first of all, don't believe the lies your head is telling you, right? So I'm not allowed to believe that I don't belong or I'm not supposed to be there. And you're not allowed to believe that either. So if you were, I'm sorry, time out, stop thinking that. If you think the summit there's too many things, it's for people who are so much further advanced, or I don't know, whatever lies you're telling yourself, stop it. Eliminate those lies and realize that you belong here. You belong where you are. Stop looking at other people. Keep running your race. That's what I've had to tell myself. I'm running my race. I'm not competing with them. And I'm excited for their growth. And I'm excited for my growth and my learning as well, too. If you walk into the summit next week, realizing that and remembering that you're there for a reason, and there's at least one, if not a gajillion nuggets that you're going to get. They're going to help you grow your business. They're going to help you really get solid on who you are and who you serve and how you do that and how social media helps you with that. If you go in with that and take ego out of it, you're going to learn so much at the summit. You're going to grasp it all. So I'm so excited for you because I know I know the greatness of it. I will also say this on the page. I'm making myself do this every week, every day, because you're going to listen to this on Wednesday, the Wednesday before the summit. Check out, and I'll put a link on this in the show notes and on the YouTube channel. There's going to be a link to the series of how to get ready for the summit. I'm doing Facebook Lives all week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So if you're listening to this on Wednesday, you got one more live. And then, of course, the clubhouse that we're doing once a week will be on summit preparation as well. That's on Friday at 9:30 Pacific time, because I want you guys to be so ready for the summit and so focused that you're like, all right, game on Donkey Kong. I'm ready for this. So be sure to check that out. Links will get, like I said, will be inside of the notes. You can always go to the Facebook page for that Roxtalks podcast. And if you catch me live, I'll do it simulcasted. So it'll be on my Instagram, Roxtalks, at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. Just make sure you come to those, and then you'll be good. All right. That is all I have today for you. I hope that you have been inspired and that you're ready to roar and get that support you need for your business, realizing that sometimes that support may not come specifically from your home. Maybe that's not their role in this, but I'm going to hearken to and remind you that finding someone, a business partner, a business bestie is so beneficial and so helpful. So consider that as well too. Okay. I'm leaving you. You're not ahead. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. I'll see you next week for another wonderful episode of Roxtalks podcast, and hopefully even a little bit sooner than that at the summit. Take care.